Good morning class, this is your English teacher Sir Sanjay. I welcome you all to yet another session of YouTube wherein we explain lessons from English Honeydew, alright, English Supplementary and English Grammar from time to time. So without any further ado, let's begin today's lesson. You all are ready, I believe. So today I've decided to take up the 7th unit. If you remember, we have already read one of the lessons from 7th unit. Today it's time for me to introduce the poem called When I Set Out for Lyonesse. Okay, I will be reading out the poem, will be reading the summary, and we'll also find out the literary device if time permits in today's session, and get to understand what this poem is about. Alright, so today we will discuss the poem titled When I Set Out for Lyonesse. Alright, so let's begin. When I Set Out for Lyonesse is written by the English poet Thomas Hardy. What is it about? Let's find out. But before we read, there is a bit preface. Let's read the preface and find out more about the poem. Okay, see, here we go. What does it say? As a young apprentice architect. See, here is a new word, apprentice. Class, I wonder whether you have heard this word before. Apprentice refers to someone who's learning a skill or a trade from someone who's a master of it. For your standard, just know that apprentice is someone who's undergoing a training in order to acquire a skill. Okay, so as a young apprentice architect, British poet and novelist Thomas Hardy once visited a parish to supervise the restoration of a church. Parish refers to, let's say, a small district with its own church and all, alright, and its own priest. So while apprenticing as an architect, what did the poet Thomas Hardy do? He had to visit a parish. What did he have to visit? He had to visit a parish. Why did he have to visit a parish? In order to supervise. Supervise means to look after, isn't it? To look after what? Yeah, he had to supervise this restoration of a church. So on his return from the parish, people noticed two things about him. There were two remarkable or striking things about him. What were the two things? One was a new glow in his eyes. There was this sparkle in his eyes that was evident. Whosoever took a look at him was sure that this glow was not the kind of glow he used to have when they saw him before. And a crumpled piece of paper sticking out of his coat pocket. Okay, there was this paper also which was crumbled and all. So it was sticking out of his coat pocket. Now what was that paper? That paper, it is recorded in one of the biographies, contained the draft of a poem. Okay, he was drafting the poem. Drafting, what is drafting? While finalizing a written piece of something, what do authors or writers do is they draft it. Draft means initially what do? They write few words in the form of let's say while narrating or writing, they write in few lines before finalizing the poem. Okay, so that crumpled paper referred to here was the draft of a poem. Okay, so we are going to read that very poem inspired by a visit to a place which the poet calls Lyonesse. Okay, Lyonesse is an imaginary place, let's say, or even if it existed in yesteryear, it does not exist now. Okay, so I believe you all are ready. In order to be able to see things clearly, you can watch this video at 460p or 360p, and for more clarity you can open or keep a book open alongside, okay, in order to be able to see the text clearly. I believe it's fine, the quality is fine. Okay, so let's move on. I hope the preface is clear. It's really very simple. It's about British poet Thomas Hardy, who was apprenticing as an architect, and once he happens to visit a church, and then ever since his return from the church, there was this glow and change in personality. He emerged to be someone better, isn't it? So let's read. There are 3 stanzas in this poem. Let's read and find out. Okay. When I set out for Lyonesse, 100 miles away, the rhyme was on the spray, and starlight lit my lonesomeness. When I set out for Lyonesse, 100 miles away. Let's read the second stanza. What would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? No prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard guess. What would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? When I returned from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surmise, my radiance rare and fathomless. When I returned from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes. So class, let me break down the poem stanza wise, beginning with first stanza. When I set out for Lyonesse 100 miles away, the poet is talking about his visit to Lyonesse, okay, which is, let's say, 100 miles away, long distance. The rhyme was in it on the spray. Rhyme refers to frost, okay. Probably he's referring to frosty or cold weather, okay. Means it was really very cold, and starlight lit on my lonesomeness. So, what is lonesomeness? First of all, before we begin, see, class, what is Lyonesse? In Arthurian legend, is the mythical birthplace of Sir Tristram. Okay, in England, believed to have been submerged by the sea. But here, in this poem, Lyonesse is an imaginary place. Do not get confused. Lyonesse in the poem is an imaginary place. Okay, so the poet imagines to have visited Lyonesse. Alright, so now let's continue. Yeah, so he says when he set out for Lyonesse, which is 100 miles away, the rhyme was on the spray. Rhyme refers to frost. Means it was cold weather and the frost was on the spray. And starlight lit on my lonesomeness. Means he was lonesome, he was feeling lonely, but then since the night was starlit, means night was as though there were millions of stars, shining in the sky, and he was feeling somewhat better. And then he repeats, when I set out for Lyonesse 100 miles away. Okay, let's move on to stanza 2. What does it have? Let's find out. What would be chance at Lyonesse? So be chance is a new word. Okay, be chance means happen, chance to happen. Okay, so what would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? Means what happened to me? Like we read in the preface that there was this wonderful glow in his eyes and face, and then he looked altogether a different person when he visited Lyonesse, isn't it? So what would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? Sojourn means stay. Okay, meaning of the word sojourn is stay. Alright, so what had happened to him at his brief stint there, at his brief stay there at Lyonesse, no one could tell. No prophet does declare. Does means there. No prophet could declare means no prophet. Prophet is someone who's believed to have heavenly connection with God and is able to tell what had happened to people who are showing certain changes, isn't it? But in this case, the prophet was not able to tell a single thing. What would be chance at Lyonesse? Means what had happened to him at Lyonesse. Okay, while I should sojourn there. Means no one was able to tell what had happened to him while he was still at where? Which place? Lyonesse. Okay. So let's move on to stanza 3. What is it about? Let's find out. Okay. When I returned from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surmise, my radiance rare and fathomless, when I returned from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes. So we were talking about that magic in his eyes, isn't it? It's not like he started casting spell from his eyes and all. This magic refers to that wonderful glow he had in his eyes while he came back from which place? That imaginary place called Lyonesse, right? So when he returned from Lyonesse, there was this magical, sparkle or shine in his eyes. Okay, there was this sparkling appearance in his eyes, all marked with mute surmise. Okay, so means it was as if everybody was easily able to understand that there is this change, but no one was able to tell because his radiance, his glow was fathomless. Fathomless refers to something which is really deep. Means it was really deep. It was unexplainable by people like wizard, priests, and all. They were not able to tell. Okay. When I returned from Lyonesse with magic, so wonderful poem. See, let's see, it also restores our faith and connection with God. So he had been to a church which was under restoration, and maybe during his brief stay there, he formed heavenly connection with God, and that is why maybe due to that he had this glow in his eyes, and there was a change in personality. Okay, so overall, really fine poem. At home, what you can do is re-study and try to pause the video and watch it again in order to have a comprehensive understanding. Very simple. Divide into 3 stanzas. Each stanza explains where he went, how he went, and what changes had happened, who could guess, who could not guess, all those things. Okay. So there is glossary here, important words. Lyonesse, I've told you what is it. Rhyme refers to frost. So read them. Class, knowing important words, knowing this word is quintessential. It will enhance your vocabulary. Okay. So learning new words in English and using them in the form of sentence is important. So learn them and make sure things go well with practicing and all. Now there are some questions. I believe you'll be able to solve them on your own. Let's see what these questions are. Working with the poem. In the first stanza, let us zoom this one. Now it will be visible. Well, visibility will be better now. In the first stanza, find the words that show that it was very cold. There is reference of the word rhyme, isn't it? It is indicative of the fact that it was really cold, that it was late evening, stars were shining, right? That the traveler was alone. Lonesomeness is a word mentioned in the poem. So class, I've given you clue. If required, pause the poem, go back to go backward by another 10 odd seconds and then find out what I've said. Okay, I've given you clue. Maybe you can try solving them on your own. Now let's move on to question number 2. What is it about? Something happened at Lyonesse. It was improbable, impossible, unforeseeable. Let's say it was unforeseeable, isn't it? Many people could not see, could not understand what had happened. There was this wonderful glow. The poet was a changed man now. He looked more balanced. There was this glow in his eyes. His eyes were sparkling. Right. So now 2 lines from from stanza 2 to justify your answer. So you asked to justify your answer by picking up 2 lines from stanza number 2. Let's see. Here is stanza 2. Let's pick out 2 lines. What would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? No Prephase does declare, no class full of lines. You choose any 2. Okay. Moving on. Question number 3. What does it say? It says, read the line, stanza 3, that implies the following. Everyone noticed something and they made guesses but didn't speak a word. Lovely. See, I've told you, right? Everybody noticed this and that. Here, these are the lines that express this. All marked with mute surmise, my radiance rather and fathomless. Okay. These are the lines. Okay. You could read them and then even write them if required. Okay. Now read the line that refers to what they noticed. What did they notice? They noticed that there was this glow in his eyes and his personality looked much balanced. He looked better in all aspects. Right. Springtime. What is it? Question. Why is it unsafe to walk about in spring? Because its grass has blazed, the flower have pistils, and the trees are shooting. It's just a funny riddle sort of, read up. Okay. So class, with this we come to conclusion of the poem called When I Set Out for Lyonesse, written by Thomas Hardy. It's a lovely poem. It's about connection with God, let's say, in a way. Okay. Here the poet becomes poet starts glowing after re-establishing his connection with God. Alright, so let's do one thing. Let's discuss the literary devices. Yeah. What are the literary devices we have in the poem? Before that, give me a moment. So, like I said before class, now it's time for us to discuss the literary device. Before I discuss literary device, it's important for you to know what are literary devices. See, literary devices are nothing but various, let's say, devices used by a poem in order to add rhyme, rhythm, and symbolism, and deeper meaning and substance in the poem. Okay, so in this poem as well, the poet has added a number of literary devices, since and that is why I have decided to show you some of them. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, let's begin with the rhyming scheme. I'm sure most of you know what rhyming words are. So in order to know what is rhyming scheme for a poem, it's very important to know what is rhyming word. Rhyming words are simple. You may you have learned rhyme from lower classes itself, isn't it? Nursery 1, easy. So in those lower classes, we have already known what rhyming words are. For example, let's say I have a word called May. Which word will rhyme with May? Let's say play will rhyme, and then word like day will rhyme with me, isn't it? Again, let's say I have another word. Let's drop this. Let's say I have another word. Let's say sleep. Which word rhymes with sleep? Deep, sheep, etc. Isn't it? So this was the words that rhyme with each other are called rhyming word. Okay. Now from rhyming word comes rhyming scheme in each and every poem. Not in each and every poem. There are poems which are expressed in free verse as well. But in this poem, let's find out whether or not we have any rhyming word. Okay. We'll start checking them from stanza 1. Here we go. Let's zoom it up so that visibility is better. Okay. You see, in order to find out rhyming scheme of a poem, you'll have to check out the last word of each line of each individual stanza. Okay, here we go. Let's say Lyonesse is A. Now we'll have to see which words rhymes with Lyonesse. Do we have any other word? Lyonesse and away, do they rhyme? No. So away will be B. Away and spray, they rhyme, of course. Spray will be B again. Then lonesomeness. Lyonesse, lonesomeness. Do they rhyme? Of course they do. That's it. And then I have away again, which is A. So, briefly speaking, the rhyming scheme of first stanza of the poem is, like I've written, A, B, B, A, A. Alright. If anyone asks you, let's say it is asked in form of MCQ, what is the rhyming scheme of first stanza of the poem? When I set out in Lyonesse, and they'll come up with 4 options: A, B, B, A, 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 B, B, A, C, A, B, B, A, whatever the rhyming scheme is. So we are not able to find what rhyming schemes are, you'll never be able to answer. That is why, knowing this is important. If you didn't understand how I explained, you can go back by 10-20 seconds and then watch it again. Now let's find out the rhyming scheme of stanza 2. Okay, again, what do we have? We have Lyonesse. Let's say Lyonesse is A. There, it does not rhyme, so there is B. There and declare will be B again. Lyonesse and guess, they rhyme, it will be A. Again, Lyonesse will be A, and then there will be B. Right. So what is the rhyming scheme of stanza 2? Again, it's similar. A, B, B, A, A, B. Right. So stanza 3, children, what do you think? What will be the rhyming scheme of stanza 3? The rhyming scheme of stanza 3 might be same. So let us give you a little task. You can, do it on your own and comment the rhyming scheme upon successful completion by posting your comment on the comment box. Okay. So moving on. What else do we have? Rhyming scheme is covered, right? The second literary device that I'm going to teach you today is called alliteration. Okay, what is alliteration? Do you all know? Some people pronounce it as alliteration as well. Both pronunciations work well, there is no problem. Alliteration is the word I'm talking about. Okay, so what is alliteration? Alliteration is nothing but repetition of a consonant sound in successive words of a letter. It necessarily it does not have to be successive, but it has to be within the first line, and the gap should not be really evident. Okay, but one thing that should be understood, it has to be consonant. In most cases it will be consonant. Okay, so alliteration is repetition of a consonant sound in a given line of the poem. Do not forget. Okay, so let's find out whether our poem has any alliteration or not. But for that, let me clear this up. Clutter things do not look good, right? So let's start checking from stanza 1. When I set out for Lyonesse, there is nothing. 100 miles away, the rhyme was on the spray, and starlight lit my lonesomeness. See, class, this could be an example, right? Lit begins with word al, lonesomeness begins with word al. So this is an example of alliteration. Okay, when I set out for Lyonesse, 100 miles away. Let's find out whether we have any in stanza 2. What would be chance at Lyonesse? See, W and W. That is an example of alliteration. Perfect. While I should sojourn. One more. Can you spot, class? Comment and tell. S. Should sojourn. Okay. Then there are plenty. Wisest wizard. See if there are more. Find them out. It's very simple, right? Alliteration is nothing but repetition of consonant sound in words which are closely placed or consecutively occurring in a given line of the poem. Do not forget. Okay. It's a very important or interesting concept that we are learning. First we have learned what is rhyming scheme, and now we have learned what is alliteration. Now it's time for us to learn the third literary device, and today I'm going to introduce to you all what is called, let me just make it, zoom it in. Okay, what I'm going to explain you is called symbolism. I'm not sure how many of you know what symbolism is. Pardon me, this literary, this gadgets and all, sometime writing does not occur as smooth as it should have been. Okay, so what is symbolism? Let me briefly explain you. Listen to me, listen to it carefully. Symbolism is nothing but use of symbol like words, or let's say people sometime, okay, or location, or marks, or ideas, okay, to represent something beyond the literal meaning. Alright, I repeat, what is symbolism? We are learning an important concept, an important literary device by the name symbolism. And what am I telling? What is symbolism? Symbolism is nothing but use of symbol like words, people, marks, right? Location. By mark, I do not mean the marks you score in exam. Okay, mark, location, ideas. And what do these ideas represent? These ideas represent something beyond what? Something beyond the literal meaning. Okay, a literal meaning is something, symbolic meaning is something. For example, for example, in the poem, what happens is, let us find example from the poem. Okay, let me rub this. Let us go back to the poem and see if the poet has used symbolism effectively. Okay, let us rub this as well. Yeah, see, there is this use of word starlight. We all know what starlight is, isn't it? We all know what star is, but here starlight symbolizes hope. This is a classic example of symbolism being used as a literary device in the poem. Okay, starlight symbolizes hope. Let's find out whether we have any other symbolism being used in the poem. Okay, let's find out. Third stanza, magic and radiance in poet's eyes. Can you see? With magic in my eyes. with magic in my eyes. Now this also is symbolism being effectively employed in the poem. So what kind of symbolism is employed by this line? With magic in my eyes. This symbolizes happiness and containment. Okay, this lines are symbolism of happiness and containment. Okay, not the containment zone that we are using these days. Alright, so this uses happiness and containment. And do we have any other symbolism being employed in the poem? Of course, yes, we have. What is it? It is Lyonesse. So what is Lyonesse? Lyonesse is a place in which the poet gets from darkness and emerges enlightenment. So Lyonesse, I believe, is one of the best usage of symbolism in the poem. Let me write it. If you can copy this down in your notebook, it will be wonderful. They may ask, how is Lyonesse use? How does the usage of imaginary place Lyonesse marks usage of symbolism in the poem? Very simple. Lyonesse symbolizes a place in which the poet gets from darkness and emerges what? How does he emerge? He emerges enlightened. Okay, with a lot of knowledge. He looks better, and there is this sparkle, there is this glow in his eyes. Right? So we have discussed that. As of now, we have discussed 2-3 literary devices. First one was rhyming scheme. Am I right? We have known what rhyming scheme is, and then what else have we discussed? We have discussed alliteration. Am I right? What else have we discussed, class? More to come. Okay, more to alliteration is discussed. We have also discussed symbolism. What have we discussed? We have discussed symbolism. One more literary device that occurs in the poem quite evidently, and it is called refrain. Okay. Now refrain, what is refrain? It might be a new device for you. Refrain is nothing but it's kind of repetition. Okay. What is the refrain? If you go by literal definition of refrain, it's a verse. It's a verse, a line, a set or a group of lines that appear whenever, let's say, wherever a poem divides into different sections or different sections. Okay, a refrain is nothing but a verse, a line, a set, or a group of lines that appear when a poem divides into different sections. So let's see whether the poet employs usage of refrain in the poem at all or not. Okay, for that we'll have to rub this again. Let's rub this using digital eraser. Okay, give me a moment while I'm rubbing this. Yeah, all good, clean and clear. So let's move now. Stanza voice, let's check. Okay. When I set out for Lyonesse 100 miles away, when I set out for Lyonesse 100 miles away. See, these two lines are repeating, isn't it? Once in the beginning, twice at the end. So this is an example of refrain. Which literary device am I talking about? I'm talking about refrain. So do not get confused. Okay. Then what else do we have? Stanza 2. What would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? What would be chance at Lyonesse while I should sojourn there? So this also is additional example of refrain being employed by the poet in the poem. Okay, let's see whether third stanza employs same device or not. When I return from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes. When I return from Lyonesse with magic in my eyes. So this also is a testimony that refrain is used in all the 3 stanzas of the poem. Okay, so this is the conclusion of literary device that we were supposed to learn. So what are the different literary devices being employed by the poet in the poem? Yes, class, I think you can name them one by one now. First up, of course, rhyming scheme is simple, isn't it? Let's not talk about rhyming scheme. We have alliteration, symbolism, refrain being effectively employed by the poet in the poem, isn't it? It's a wonderful poem, lot to take in. Okay, connection with God is important and there are various lessons. Okay, class. So with this, we come to conclusion of today's class. It was wonderful to have shared experience of this poem with you all. If you have liked this work, make sure you are sharing this, because due to COVID pandemic, education is not accessible to many. Okay, so share this and do not forget to like and subscribe. Thank you everyone. Let's wind up this session here. Bye bye. Have a great time.